What are the invisible parts of legacy that no one really talks about? If you've been listening to this show for a while, you've heard a lot of women talk about pivoting, starting a new career, helping others, and they have shared some of the struggles. We have it on my solo episodes as well. We have talked about how difficult it can be sometimes and how sometimes you just want to throw in the towel, or as I've said before, I want to ball up in a fetal position and just cry because being an entrepreneur, building a legacy for kind of a generational wealth type legacy, it's hard. It's a lot to do, and for me, I want to be a good person. I want to contribute to the community. I want to contribute to the family, and as I mentioned, generational wealth. I'll say this correctly in a second. But there's a cost. And I am on this journey to find harmony in my life, not balance, harmony. And so, what is the cost that many people don't talk about when it comes to what are the invisible parts of legacy that no one really talks about? This is Legacy Her Way. I want to welcome you to the show. This is the podcast where we explore how women define and build legacy on their own terms. I'm Tanya Hendricks. I'm your host. And legacy isn't just about what we leave behind someday. It's about the choices we're making right now, who we're building for, what we're building and preserving, and how we create peace of mind and margin or harmony along the way. So today's conversation is, you got me, just me talking. So today's conversation is about some of the invisible parts that you don't see. So many people, whether they see me, I'm doing, like Tanya's killing it, Tanya's doing great. How does she do it all? I don't do it all. I don't do it all. That's the thing. That's one of the invisible parts. I don't do it all. It's rare that you're going to have somebody who is successful who does everything herself. I mean, we have to have a team behind us. We have to have help. I have a spouse who's wonderful, who has stepped in and done a tremendous amount. I'm very thankful and blessed. I have staff at my law firm who have stepped up and just been tremendously helpful. I mean, just wonderful. I couldn't have asked for better people to step in and take care of things. But there's still a lot that I have to do myself, and I have tried to do it all at the cost of sleep, health, stress. There's a lot of things. Getting up early in the mornings. I get up at 4 o'clock every morning to get things done. To now working out in the mornings. When you say yes to something, you have to say no to something else. And so I have had to structure my schedule now so that I have time in the mornings to work out at least 3 days a week. That's my goal right now, is let's do this 3 days a week so I can get back in that habit and routine of working out and get back to where I enjoy it, because right now it's a struggle, quite honestly. But there's always a cost. When you bring something into your world, something else has to leave. And so you have to prioritize what that is. And my priority in 2026, as I said before, is my health, but part of that is finding that harmony. And if you listen for this season at least, I've talked about harmony, not balance, because I don't like the term balance. I don't even find balance in our lives. But trying to find that harmony where you have your personal life, your health, your business, whatever it is that you're bringing it all together and you are in tune, as I read the definition a few weeks ago. So today I heard something on a podcast that I didn't know. And I went back and Googled it. I looked to see if that was correct. And it was the term passion. Now, how many of us have been told, follow your passion? Or maybe I've been guilty of telling people, follow your passion. Well, unfortunately, passion doesn't always pay the bills. I followed my passion to work with sex trafficking victims back in 2013. It was a calling. It was a passion. I was very passionate about it. I was on fire. My soul, my heart, everything was on fire to help these women. but it didn't pay the bills. And so I was passionate all day long about it, but it didn't pay the bills. So I had to get back to practicing law again. So passion, though great, isn't always the answer. If I followed my passion right now, I'd be back in a position where I would be paying bills. I think a lot of us probably fall in that category. But what I heard in this podcast today, and actually it was 2 podcasts that I've listened to, I think yesterday and today, that just kind of started mixing things together in my mind as I was thinking through this, getting through this harmony and what I'm going to talk about as far as legacy. So when we talk about passion, I did not know where passion, the word, comes from. And what I heard on this other podcast, if I had not been driving at the time, I would have stopped in my tracks. But I was driving, so I had to keep going. But when I got to my destination, I Googled it to see, is he right? Is he correct? And he was. So what he was saying in this podcast is it originally comes from basically the passion of the Christ. And so it originates from the 12th century Latin word passio, meaning to suffer or endure. I would have never put suffering and endurance with passion. I mean, I've heard the phrase passion of the Christ, but I never heard it in terms of that word. The root word comes from suffering and endurance. And as a person of the Christian faith, I understand what that means. I understand that when Jesus was on this earth, particularly his 3 years of ministry, but specifically those last hours of his life, he suffered tremendously. Whipped, beaten, stripped naked, and then hung on a cross. He suffered tremendously during that period of time. But that passion that he had, the suffering and endurance, he did it for love, for the love of us, for the love of humans, for the love of the people that he was sacrificing his life for. And so even though he was suffering through this, even though he was going through one of the most humiliating ways to be executed, he was being executed for a crime he didn't commit, was wrongfully accused, he suffered through all of that, endured all of that pain out of love. And I thought, man, that is an interesting way to think about passion, but to think about work. And it kind of gets back to the why. You know, if you've been in business, if you've done marketing, done anything like that, you've probably been asked, what's your why? Why are you doing this? And I've had some answers through the years. All comes back to family, and it all comes back to those I love and who I love. You know, as an estate planning lawyer, I often say, I tell people, I start with people, not papers, because estate planning is not just about paperwork. It's about the people who you love and you want to care for and provide for. That's the same when it comes to my why, as to why I get up at 4 o'clock in the mornings, why I go to bed at 9 o'clock, and I'm working, doing something almost the entire time in between. It's why I have days that I'm going to pull my hair out, that I want to just walk out of my firm and my practice and go, forget it. I don't want to be a business owner anymore. It comes back to why and the people that I love. This other podcast also kind of brought that home. So in the other podcast, the person was talking about, and it made me really think about, because I've often wondered this question, had this question. When I've looked at people like coal miners, most of them probably aren't passionate about going down in the coal mines. Most people who are, and I'm not, this is not to denigrate anybody's profession. I actually hold people that will go into a mine in high esteem. That's something I don't want to do. Garbage collectors, I don't want to collect garbage. So there's certainly some professions out there that this is not meant in any way to denigrate them, because I certainly hold these professions in very high esteem, because like I said, I don't want to do those things, and it's necessary. It's a necessary part of life. But some of these professions, people aren't necessarily passionate about being a bank teller their entire lives or working in a bank their entire lives. But what they are passionate about is their why. They are passionate about making sure their family is provided for. They are passionate about and love those people and ensuring that their spouse has a roof over their head, their children have a roof over their heads, their children have food to eat. I look at my own family and I see the jobs that my mom worked through the years. She wasn't like just all happy and giddy about going to some of those jobs, but she was passionate about ensuring her family was provided for. So she was passionate in that she suffered and she endured through the hardships. Now, she was not beaten like Jesus was. She wasn't nailed to a cross like Jesus was, but she endured the hardships. Not because she enjoyed some of those jobs, like working in a sewing factory or being a waitress, or I think she did enjoy being a bus driver for a while, but it wasn't just, there wasn't just this overwhelming passion to do those things. But she was passionate about making sure her family was taken care of and provided for. This episode of Legacy Her Way is sponsored by Huntsville Estate Planning Lawyer, helping you protect your family and what you're building and preserve the legacy you are creating. Your family and your life's work deserves more than hope. It deserves a plan. Contact Huntsville Estate Planning Lawyer today to make your plan. And as this person on the podcast is talking about, he was calling this whole idea of go find and do whatever you're passionate about. He was like, that's ridiculous. Like, your passion is for, and what you pursue is the betterment of your family. The passion, what you should be driving for and striving for, is to take care of those who you love. And that's where you find the passion. That's where you find not necessarily maybe not the enjoyment, but that's if you are providing for your family, that's where that passion is. So you're going to endure the hardships. You're going to endure the suffering, the long hours, whatever it is, because you're passionate, as we use the term today, about taking care of our families. And that's something that I've just been circling in my head the last 2 days, thinking through that, because it is so true. I said that I often thought about some of those people who they went to the mines every day, or they stayed in a manufacturing job and went and did the same thing day in and day out for 20, 30, 40 years. And I often thought, how did they do that and not get just incredibly bored? How did they work at a factory their entire lives and not just get incredibly bored and just walk out? And I think it's this idea that they have a family to provide for. That's what they're passionate about. Sure, this is a job, but the passion is to provide for the family. So I'm going to endure and suffer this monotonous job so that I can make sure my family is taken care of. So I can make sure my children can go have a career they want to have, not one they have to have. And so that's where I've been just kind of thinking through the last few days and realizing that that was the passion. The passion of those workers was to take care of their families. And that's kind of where I am now. I am, being a business owner is hard. And yes, a law firm is is a small business. I told someone recently that I'm working on building a business. They're like, oh, what business is this? I'm like, it's a law firm. So yes, the law firm is a small business. And so I've been working on that, and it takes a lot. It just takes time, energy. It takes a lot of mental energy. And so as the attorney, as the business owner, I'm doing all the business things. I'm also the attorney, handling the legal side, the legal work, and then doing the networking events and doing kind of overseeing marketing, overseeing staff. I mean, there's just all the things that falls on me as the business owner, and it just takes my time and takes my energy. And that's why I've been on this quest of finding harmony, because I have, over the last few years of building this business, I've let my health go to the wayside and not focused on it. But I know I need to get healthy so that I can continue to be there for my husband. I continue to be there for my clients, for my staff. So mentally I can stay sharp as I get older, and that physically I can stay, in decent shape and get around physically as I get older. So I've got to focus on health now. But it's got to fit that into my schedule and into my time. And it's a matter of making it a priority. And it's suffering. I mean, gosh, today I did the leg workout. And if you work out, legs, so I can at least walk today. There have been times I haven't been able to walk. But it's suffering. It's enduring, it's persevering. And I think as business owners, we endure a lot. We persevere, and we have to dig in and just, we have to have some grit and show that grit. So I encourage you, as you are thinking through legacy, yes, you see the successes that people have. You see maybe the successes that you see are maybe monetary. Maybe they have the nice cars. Maybe they have the nice jewelry, the nice clothes. They're going on the great vacations. So those are things that you can see, but some of the things you don't see behind the scenes are those late nights, early mornings, pulling hair out, crying, being angry. I mean, all those emotions. So you may not see those things. And that's oftentimes the invisible parts of legacy. Because as I'm building a legacy for my family, for this firm, for my clients, there's that invisible part that's behind the scenes you don't see. You probably can see the bags under my eyes today if you're watching this on YouTube. But you don't see those invisible parts. And there are invisible parts. There are costs to building a legacy. But within that cost, you have to find the harmony and figure out what price are you willing to pay. And it may be that the price is, I'm not going to scroll social media. I'm not going to scroll TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or X. I've been on Twitter, X, way too much, just scrolling. But maybe it's, I've got to sacrifice tonight. I can't go out and do that thing tonight because I got to work on this thing. But it's for purpose. It's building towards something. So I just have to do this night where I can't do something so I can build the next best thing, or I can work on this other thing that I need to get done. So it may not be something, a huge sacrifice. It may just be, I can't scroll social media, or I need to get up an extra 30 minutes earlier or an hour earlier. I'm already up at 4. But maybe you have to get up a little bit earlier. There are some sacrifices and suffering and endurance along the way, is what I'm getting at. And you have to find, if you have a goal and you're trying to reach that goal, if you're trying to leave a legacy, whatever that may be, there may be a cost. There may be some suffering. There may be some endurance. But I would bet that just as with Jesus, that cost, that endurance is because of love. It's because of love. It's those who you love, most likely, that you're trying to provide for. And so, yes, you'll do all the hard things to build the legacy for those who you love, to build the generational wealth, to build whatever it is you're building. It may not be a business. You may be a mom who is worn out, tired from all the things required to take care of the kids in the morning, get them off to school, get them to dance or gymnastics or football or soccer or baseball, whatever it is. but you do it because you love them. You'll put up with the late nights and early mornings and the nights where they're throwing up all through the night and you get no sleep because you love them. And that's passion. That's passion. The passion is the suffering and endurance for those who you love. This has been a solo episode of Legacy Her Way. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. You take something from it. It would be extremely helpful, and I would ask that you subscribe to this podcast, share this episode with anyone who you feel like needs to hear it, but subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode of Legacy Her Way. I hope you have a great rest of your day.